Welcome to At the Coolidge. I'm Tim Jackson, and I'm speaking with Jean-Dominique Sifantus again,
Again,
because we see a lot of films together, and you
That's
know
right,
a lot
yeah.
about film and a lot about story and mythology, and you're a classically educated guy. So, when we saw this movie we're covering today, which is Slumdog Millionaire by Danny Boyle, it was an interesting conversation because it operates on so many different levels.
Yes, definitely.
But mainly, I think it operates at that level of almost fable, and creating a great myth. It's not real. And so
Yeah,
to ask the details of can these things really happen becomes irrelevant.
yeah. No, because I thought about that too. Like you almost wonder at some point if he's not dreaming it, and there's the whole point of randomness. Now we don't want to give too much about the
Well, the
movie.
basic story, as people probably know if they're curious about the film at all, is that there's a boy raised up in the slums, and he goes on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he's able to answer all the questions. And
Right.
so the host is stymied by that and has him interrogated and tortured to find out how he knew all of these questions.
Yeah,
And as he explains how he knew the answers to these questions, which seemed impossible for anybody raised in the slums of India, he tells the story of his life. And each of the questions, by coincidence, by fate, happens to embody some experience he's had as a young boy growing up in the slums.
right. But there's, the funny part is that this is the kind of movie that makes you think about tons of stuff. It's challenging for that. And that story, even though it's been kind of the story that's the byline, in all the publicity about the movies and all that, and some of the reviews, you sort of forget about it after you watch the movie.
Right.
And there's all kinds of stories that comes out, or sub-subject, and the randomness of life, the kind of cultural clash. Like there's some amazing kind of dichotomy where they choose to show for instance, like the Gluck opera, Orpheus,
Right.
in the middle of it. And there's a lot about the storyline, his life story, that corresponds to that myth.
To that mythology, which is, explain that mythology.
Well, I know some about it, but it's Orpheus is and it has a lot to do with the power of the music and all that. But he falls in love with Eurydice, and she dies, and he goes to hell to trying to find her, and he has to go through all kinds of trials and
Much like our protagonist.
yes,
in
to
Slumdog
go through
Millionaire.
it, and he finally is able to he's able to make a deal to bring her back to life, at the condition that he never looks at her, and he just has to guide her back to life.
So that sort of mythic subplot line is in there all the time.
Yes,
Because
definitely.
he's driven by love. He
Yes.
doesn't want to win this contest for any reason except to get her back.
Right, and so now the myth is he doesn't make it. She doesn't.
And we
make
won't
it.
say what happens in the movie because that
No,
wouldn't
right,
be fair.
yeah, no. But
yeah.
you keep that in mind. It
Right.
doesn't. He actually, succumb to love, and he has to look at her, and she disappears. And so you have to watch the movie, and that's what made me think when you watch the movie and and you see a story after the movie, you figure out, and then there's the whole aspect of randomness. The whole game show, the millions. Does he care? He doesn't really
Well,
care
the
about
incredible
it.
cultural clash of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, corrupt style, whatever. I don't even know if that's really a show in
Right.
India. Although this is based on a book of short stories.
Yes.
They were somehow hobbled together.
Yes.
And all built into this film.
But you know what? This is it wasn't originally an English show, and so it's possible that it
yeah,
actually is a big thing in England.
I don't know if the game show host can actually have the winning contestant brought to the police station and interrogated with
Right.
electricity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we'll just go with it.
Right, and so you get this whole randomness, and there's a whole randomness of life in India or in a country like that compared to our life.
Right.
So it's like you get this cultural clash, and I think one point, like really central point in the movie is when they're running around at some point after escaping. You know, I'm not going to tell the story. They escape for some place. They're running around, and they all of a sudden they come into this place where they're showing the opera, Gluck's Orpheus, in this kind of amazingly modern setting. You know, it looks like a French production, really. You know, sparse and all that, and it stops. The whole movie, which has been a kind of frantic space, and you know, like you can almost smell the country there, and then you go there, boom, everything stops.
Yeah. And you also mentioned, I think it's interesting that the visual style is very frenetic.
Yes.
So be prepared to kind of get your breath taken away or to
it's
hold
amazing.
on to your seat.
Yeah.
How he made this, I mean, he had to actually do it with small cameras running around the slums in areas where they would change week to week, and they had to shoot it fast.
Yeah, apparently they didn't trying to make it a set and all that.
Yeah.